Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Council Chambers this cool and brisk November 9th. Again, there is a temporary mask bylaw in effect in the town of Stony Plain, so as long as you are seated at your stations, you're okay to remove your mask if you feel like it. If you don't want to, that's okay as well. But especially if you get up, you need to have a mask on, ladies and gentlemen. Please and thank you. And I believe we have a couple presentations today, so when they come in again, our staff will make sure that they have their masks as they enter, and then once they sit down, they can take off their masks if they are comfortable with, and then from there, they can make the presentation, and then when they leave, they have to don their mask when they leave again. Council, there's an agenda before you. There's going to be an addition of 9.3 to the agenda, and that is the Stony Plain Spruce Grove Rotary Trail connection. Administration, anything else to add?
No, Your Worship.
Okay. Thank you much. And with that, I'll ask for the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Matties.
The Town Council adopt the November 9th, 2020 regular council meeting agenda as presented.
Thank you. And that'll be as amended?
As amended.
Okay. Thank you. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, and that is carried. Move on to number 2 is public input session. This is the time that we allow residents to address council on anything that's not on the current agenda. I do not see anybody else's, did not see anybody registered, so Town Manager, has anybody submitted a written response or commentary to Town Council?
Your Worship, not that was brought to my awareness by late this afternoon, so no.
Okay. Thank you. So moving on to number 4, which is presentations and delegations. And today we're honored to have representatives of the Salvation Army 2020 Christmas Carol campaign. I believe that they're registered to come and make a presentation to the Town Council. Are they here yet?
Your Worship, I don't believe so. I don't see anybody in the lobby.
Okay. Thank you. And members of council, so we're just going to move on, and when they do show up, we'll just kind of take a pause from where we end up and then go back to 4.1 for the presentation. Number 5, there's no statutory public hearings. So we're moving on to adoption of council minutes. Item number 6. So 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3. Councillor Lloyd, please.
Yes, Your Worship. The Town Council approved the Town Council meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you. Members of council, if you had a chance to read the minutes, any errors or omissions or commentary on those? Okay. See none. I believe that there was one error. I'm not too sure if it's an error or just that's how we do things. Just hold on a second. Under 6.3, where is it? So that's on, I gotta find it first. Thank you. 6.3 on page 33 of 110. 4.8. I believe before that, 4.8 was taken, I relinquished the chair to Deputy Mayor Justin Laurie at that time. Okay. And that was the only error that I saw. Any other errors, omissions, comments? Okay, see none. Thank you, Councillor Lloyd, for the motion. I'll call the question. All in favor? All accept the affirmation? That's done. Thank you. Moving on to 7.2, Council boards, commissions, and committee minutes. We're looking at 7.1, which is the Cultural Roundtable from January 15th and April 15th, and the Meridian Foundation from August 27th and September 30th. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Town Council receive the council boards and committee meeting minutes for information.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of council, you had a chance to read them, go through them. Any errors, omissions, questions to the council appointees that represent? Councillor Matties, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question is to Councillor Bennett regarding the Meridian Housing Foundation. On page 44 of 110, it refers to researching different options for crowdfunding, and just wondering if an option has been selected and what is the goal for that particular campaign, and what is the total goal for the campaign for the Folkestone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could you repeat what page you're referring to?
Page 44 of 110.
Yeah. Item 5.1.
So your direct question, you had two of them. One was about the fundraising, and one was about which option we had taken to...
Of the crowdfunding, like you were researching different options for it. And just wondering what you're hoping to achieve in terms of funding using that model.
Yeah, so the different options for crowdfunding, we did some research through Facebook. Sometimes people do crowdsourcing on Facebook, and so one of the pilot projects that they did was posted like a birthday celebration, and so people can donate to a particular person's birthday. And from that, I believe they raised $250. Another suggestion when it comes to crowdfunding is it's something called Kick 2020 in the Behind, and everyone pledged $2,020 towards our campaign. That has not yet gotten up off the ground. And our goal for the entire campaign is $500,000. We are now up to over $100,000. I know this says $78,428, but we're now over $100,000. With another fundraiser soon to be happening, which actually happens next week from September 15th to November 15th to November 22nd, which is the online art auction. I believe all of council got some information on that today, and that's been posted throughout our social media also. Also, I'll just remind council that most of you bought raffle tickets for the Legion raffle, and that raffle will take place on November 11th. We pretty well sold out of all the books, so be sure to check your numbers on that.
The raffles.
Any other questions?
That's good. Any other questions, comments regarding the minutes? Thank you very much for the update. And actually, maybe it's...
Could I also add that we had a tour last week of the building site itself, and it's very impressive. The walls are going up, the parquet is finished. We went up to the second floor. It's quite a nice view up there, and it's going to be two floors higher than that. So it is coming right along with the construction.
Thank you. And actually, that was one of the questions I had. It's just an update on where Folkestone Manor is, so thank you very much for that. And I noticed in the minutes, there's some mention about a lodge in the city of Spruce Grove. Can you provide council and the viewers and the residents a little information about that project?
That project is a lodge for all of our residents in the region, and we have hired, trying to think of the company to do a business case for us. So that will be coming out soon. I also believe that the CAO, our executive director, Lorianne St. Arnaud, will be presenting to council in the near future about the housing needs assessment report that Meridian Housing contracted out and was presented to that board, and now we're presenting it to all the councils. Do you have a date for that, Mr.?
Yes, Your Worship, as Councillor Bennett has indicated, we do have the Meridian Foundation scheduled in for December 7th to provide a presentation to council.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments? Your question to Councillor Loy. Looking at the Cultural Roundtable minutes, I noticed the minutes from January 15th have the time when the meeting started and when the time the meeting ended. But the meeting for April 15th, there was no times for the meeting to start and there was no end time when it was adjourned. Was there a reason for that, Councillor Loy?
Your Worship, I don't know. I'd have to check. I did not notice that, and I do not have an explanation as to why there is no time in that meeting, start and finish. So,
Yes, and if you can just check that up as the representative on the Cultural Roundtable.
yes.
This didn't seem similar to the other ones.
Your Worship, I believe our recording secretary may be able to provide further comment on that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, it was because the meeting was done virtually online through email. Microsoft Teams was not set up then, so it was all done through email. Communicated by the Cultural and Tourism Development Officer.
Okay, thank you. So just another question then to our staff, or maybe to Councillor Loy. I know there's terms of reference for the Cultural Roundtable. Does it allow for email meetings? Usually that's not a best governance practices to use emails as a meeting format.
I'll have our General Manager of Strategic Services comment.
Thank you.
Your Worship, regarding the Cultural Roundtable meeting, as you and Councillor are aware, that was shortly after COVID-19 and some of our disbursement of staff and some of the adjustment to our meetings and formats were being adjusted to create kind of a virtual setting for those. So our online format for the meeting was not quite in place, and the participants of the Cultural Roundtable were not enabled to do that. So this was a modified version of a meeting. Your Worship, I'm not aware that you would find specific details regarding the allowance of this in the terms of reference. However, it was discussed electronically amongst the members of the Cultural Roundtable to conduct the meeting in this manner. It was acceptable to them, and so they proceeded in this manner to ensure that the timelines for the update to the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Action Plan could be completed on schedule. So it was a unique circumstance, Your Worship, that the committee members agreed to participate in that format, and so it would, at this point in time, the meetings are now being conducted either virtually through Teams format or in person going forward.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Okay, any more comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. Thank you, Councillor Bennett, for making the motion. All in favor to accept for information? Okay, and that is carried. Moving on, there's no bylaws tonight to deal with. And moving on to business items, we have 9.1, which is the snow removal and ice control policy. I believe council was presented this a little earlier in the year, so go ahead, administration.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just ask our General Manager of Planning and Infrastructure to speak to this item.
Thank you, Your Worship. As Council may remember, we presented a draft policy on October 5th for the snow and ice control policy. The intention at the time was to seek feedback from Council and bring back any revisions that were thought to be additions or changes that would be a good idea. I will remind Council that the purpose of the policy is to provide a number of things, including emergency vehicle access to the town, safe access to schools, maintain a connected community, and to permit motorists and pedestrians to travel with a reasonable degree of mobility. I would also emphasize that the updated policy is achievable with our current operational resources and approved budget. We did make one change to the policy. As noted on page 65 of 110, the words "is" were changed to "could be," and that is in relation to the emergency access in lanes and local residential roads. To be more clear that if it was felt it could happen in the near future, then we would move to action in that. That concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Members of council, any questions of clarity before we accept the motion? Councillor Meyer, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just turning to page, I believe it is 71, 7.5. Just regarding the, it speaks about for reasons of efficiency, operations manager may authorize. Anyhow, it also mentions any exceptions at the, the last sentence, any exceptions authorized under section 7.5 are subject to annual review. I'm just curious if how we would inform someone, or if we would inform someone if a private walkway, like if that changed from one year to the next, if we would inform them or how we would inform them.
Your Worship, through you to Councillor Meyer, thank you for the question. We do have a number of circumstances which are unique where this section is uniquely pointing at, where there may be circumstances adjacent to private property that the town feels that they are responsible for the clearing of snow and ice. If any changes were to be made, we would communicate with the homeowners or the landowners of those parcels before making any change.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Any other questions of clarity and understanding? Okay, I see none. Councillor Meyer, since you asked the only question of clarification, I'll ask you to make the motion, please.
Perfect, thank you. That Town Council, 1, approve snow removal and ice control policy C-PW-042, and 2, repeal snow removal and ice control policy 346/08/01/SP.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of council, open up for discussion, debate, and comments. Councillor Bennett, go ahead.
I'm just looking at what I need to refer to. I notice in this motion that the last time we looked at this policy was in 2001. Don't we have a policy that updates things sooner than that? 19 years, 20 years is a long time to renew or to look at updating certain policies.
Yes. So Councilor Bennett, you're absolutely right. So on the new bylaw, under item number 9, I believe, the policy review is every 4 years being implemented.
Good, thank you.
And that is only if there is a need for change before it's brought to council. I think in my term as sitting in this chair, we reviewed it a couple times, but there was no changes made. Okay. Any other questions? Just one question regarding the kind of removal of ice and snow from residential roadways. There is, again, a minimum standard to be triggered. Last year we had some abnormal weather which caused a kind of a heat wave in the middle of January, which caused a lot of obstruction in our traffic flows and people getting around in the community. Does this new bylaw allow the operations manager the ability to do something sooner than actually wait until these things are triggered?
Your Worship, thank you for the question. The intention of the rewording is to allow the operations manager the discretion to do exactly what you just said. Presumably, there may not be 10 centimeters of packed snow, but if there's significant rutting and other impediments to safe vehicle travel, and in particular emergency vehicle travel, then the operations manager would take that into consideration and pull the trigger based on that.
Okay, thank you. I'm finished. Any other questions? No, with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay. And that is carried. Moving on to 9.3, which is the 2020 third quarter report. Go ahead, administration.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to be brief on this one, the report is prepared and tabled in front of council. Try to make sure that the information is manageable to the public. We tend to push a lot of it out in our social media after it's been accepted by council. You'll note through here, as our operations, it's more of an operational report. There is still even a bit of a COVID-19 thread going through some of the Heritage Park rentals and so on and so forth are showing that, in this quarter that we're talking about here, we're still in a fairly shut down mode. There's some reference to the fact that they are opening up, and we'll see how that carries forward. We do try to include a bit of the updates on some of the council decisions and directions, but Your Worship, I will leave it at that. We can certainly answer any questions or provide further commentary or scope to the report should council require that.
Okay. Thank you much. Members of council, any questions of clarity, understanding of the report? Councilor Mannis, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd first of all like to say this is just an excellent report. I just really enjoyed reading it and learning about all the initiatives and the past experience we've had with a number of operations in our community. I do have a question, though, for administration with regards to the golf course. There it says the increased the number of non-member rounds to increase over 10 rounds punch cards. And I'm wondering, will we be contacting these non-members, or how will you be making sure that they come back next year so we can continue the ongoing success?
Okay. Good question.
Your Worship, through to Councillor Mattis. So the 10 punch passes is something that we would offer as an opportunity for a golfer, any golfer to purchase. So they're basically in advance buying 10 rounds at the golf course. They would come, present that, and we would just stamp it so that at the end of 10 rounds, all the holes have been identified as or stamped or however they're doing it over at the golf course. So I don't believe that that's something that I would have to check back and get back to you if we would take the name, address, phone number of an individual. We do have to put their name in when they book a tee time, so there might be a mechanism for us to say they're using their 10 punch pass at that point. Typically, I think people are just buying them because it's an opportunity. Other facilities like rec facilities or aquatic facilities have the same type of thing, and it's just it's easier than having money all the time. It's in advance. Sometimes people budget that way. It's just another opportunity for us to sell something more convenient for golfers. So I can check with the golf course to see if they do have a database of individuals and whether or not they reach out to them and ask if they're interested in them. I definitely know they do that for a membership. I'm not sure if we extend it down to the 10 punch pass at this point.
I hope we do.
Thank you. Actually, I'll just follow up with that commentary in that section. I noticed the rounds have considerably increased over this quarter than last year. Does that have anything to do with the weather conditions?
Your Worship, certainly the weather has been more favorable in 2020 than it was in 2019. Previous reports that we have provided administratively from updates from time to time certainly I think we had 7 maybe this year, and we had 37 or more last year. So definitely the weather has provided a good benefit to us. I think work from home probably has provided some increased benefit to us in terms of people having better accessibility to the golf course. I think most golf courses in the region experienced great years this year. I think the weather certainly was one of those factors.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding the report? Go ahead, Council. Mattis, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm referring to page 90 of 110 under Municipal Enforcement Services. I just noticed that there was a number of driving violations. I'm just trying to remember where I saw it. Oh, yes. Hang on a second.
Page 92.
Oh, is it the driving violations?
Yes, page 92.
Okay. Anyways, there was an awful lot of them, and I'm wondering how does that compare with 2019? Are we seeing increased driving violations?
Your Worship, if necessary, I can get that information and provide it back to Council via email.
Okay.
I don't have the 2019 stats handy. I could pull them, but don't have them accessible right at this moment.
Okay. Okay. So that'll be coming back to Council in email format later on? Thank you.
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Any other questions for clarity? Councillor Loy, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and through to administration. And a follow-up of that driving violations. Does that necessarily mean a ticket where there's a monetary fine assessed, or would that also include, let's say, a written warning with no monetary fine? And if that answer can come with the other answer when it comes out. It's not necessarily for tonight.
Okay, thank you. The General Manager, did you catch that second part from Councillor Loy?
Your Worship, through the Councillor Laurie, I would expect these are violations that have been written, but I will certainly clarify that with the follow-up, that is the case.
Right, thank you. They'd all be probably written, but some can be a written warning, and some can just be as I say, a violation that requires a monetary payment or court procedure. That's what I'm looking at.
Your Worship, just for clarity on Councillor Loy's last question, so the first graph is showing the traffic incidents that we responded to. The second graph is showing the violations that were issued related to those traffic incidents. So that might be a bit of a delineation between the two. The top graph is the number for third quarter, and issues are the second graph. So I will do that clarity for you also, but that's just a further clarification this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions, comments? Go ahead.
Wanted to clarify, it was 143 driving violations in the third quarter, and it just seemed like a tremendous number, and it sticks out like a sore thumb on page 92. So that's why I was asking the question.
Yes, thank you. And same with the parking complaints above it.
Yes.
Thank you. Actually, I have a question regarding the fire stats. Definitely due to COVID and the pandemic that's happening, and realize that the number of hours for training is down considerably from last year. Does that, with the reduced number of training hours, does that put our community at a lower level of service? Where our fire department be prepared as they normally are with the reduced amount? That's almost like a 30-some% reduction in training hours.
Your Worship, the numbers that are shown under the 2020 training hours, the top line is 2019 is the total number for 2019. This is up to Q3, so the total year to date is 4,100. So Q4 would have to be added to this this total before we would call it a full comparison year over year.
Okay. So then you provided the 2020 numbers year-to-date, but the full 2019 numbers.
Correct.
Okay, so we won't know the full comparison until the end of this year, so first quarter of next year.
Correct, for the Q4 report. Certainly, based on your commentary, though, I do know that we've been doing through the pandemic the Monday evenings where the staff were not able to get together personally. They certainly were getting together via Teams. That does restrict the level of training that you can do. So the hands-on training necessarily can't happen over a Teams format, but the theoretical training can still continue. They did, as permissions were permitted, to venture more into hands-on training with COVID restrictions in place, of course. And they did get back into some of the more hands-on training. So I don't believe there was a decline in the level of service that our community would expect from a fire service due to COVID-19.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, any other questions of clarity and understanding? Okay, seeing none, Councillor Pletchko for the motion, please.
Yes. Thank you, Your Worship. The Town Council accept the 2020 third quarter report for information.
Okay. Thank you. Any last comments from our staff?
No, Your Worship.
Thank you. Members of Council, again, as Councillor Matty said earlier, this is a good report, and we always use this going forward to share with our residents so they know what's happening over their community over the last 3 months, last quarter. And it's amazing when you actually look at it. A lot of things do happen, and it looks like it's just a blink of an eye and it's gone. So it's nice to have those things refresher. Okay, any other questions? Okay, see none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to 9.3, that's the addition that Council added, and that's the Stony Plain Spruce Grove Rotary Trail connection. I'm just going to ask Councillor Lloyd to make that motion first before I turn it over to administration.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The Town Council, 1, direct administration to have discussions with Spruce Grove administration regarding a trail connection between the two municipalities, and 2, that a report be brought back to council with possible recommendations by February 28th, 2021.
Thank you very much, Councillor Loy. Go ahead, administration.
Thank you, Your Worship. The brief report in front of council and the motion as read into the record does 2 things clearly. So, you know, the trail connection between Stony Plain and Spruce Grove has been a bit of an ongoing dialogue for a number of years. There's been some effort, planning, and construction put into portions of it, but what the motion is in front of council will do will put some weight to the discussion between the two administrations, and frankly, Your Worship, put a date by which time both administrations will report back to council on options. The final thing I'll note, Your Worship, and to the rest of the council, is that it's my understanding that the City of Spruce Grove has a similar motion on their council agenda this evening. I've not been updated that they've gotten to it yet, but I believe they will be likely adopting a very similar motion to this, Your Worship.
Thank you. Members of Council, any questions or comments regarding the motion? Councillor Bennett, go ahead.
Not really a question, a comment, Mr. Mayor. This is something that I've looked forward to for many years. So it's good that we're at least this stage.
Yes. Thank you very much. Before I call the question again, this is a kind of a legacy project that has carried over from the 1995 summer Alberta Games there. There was money earmarked to both the Stony Plain Rotary Club and the Spruce Grove Rotary Club to create a connection between the two communities. Stony Plain Rotary Club transferred the money to the town of Stony Plain a few years ago, and the town used that money to complete that trail up to Veterans Boulevard and just 100 meters off 16A, because we didn't want to put it right to the intersection, as there was no safe place for residents to travel. So I look forward to having a report coming forward and something that's built so that there is a connection. Again, this is a long project that has been on the books since 1995, and if somebody was paying attention, I kind of called it the Stony Plain Spruce Grove Rotary Trail, because both the Rotary groups and clubs in our communities were the ones that were spearheading the 1995 Summer Games, and they're also spearheading the trail connection. So let's look forward to seeing some reports, and then we can name it whatever we want after that, and hopefully there is some kind of tie-in to the work that the Rotary Club has done in our communities. Councillor Matthews?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have one question for administration with regards to the engagement of our community in terms of what they see the needs are for the trail and how they would utilize it.
Thank you.
Your Worship, we can certainly take that into some of the dialogue with our counterparts at Spruce Grove. At this point, I wouldn't say that there is or is not planned engagement specifically on this, although that would be part of the conversation we would have with our counterparts. It wasn't contemplated or hasn't been contemplated, hasn't been discussed yet at this point in time. Oh, I see a general manager pointing to himself who wishes to speak, so.
Your Worship, through you to Councillor Matties, I just point council to the active transportation plan which we did this year, and was presented to council, I believe, just before the pandemic hit us. There was common themes. We did an extensive public engagement at that time, and there was common themes that came out of the study, and one of the top themes and points of discussion in the community was create a trail connection to Spruce Grove.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, see none. I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay. And that is carried. Okay. Town manager, has the representatives from the Salvation Army appeared in council?
Your Worship, I don't see anybody here quite yet. I am sensing, or I do feel like they may be showing up in the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. We'll move on, and if they're not here when we adjourn, then we can reschedule. Okay. And moving on to council information and council discussion items. Anything that members of council like to update fellow councillors on? We'll start with Councillor Bennett. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On my drive to town office today, I noticed that we have a new crosswalk on, must be about 51st and Highway 779 or 48th Street. I'm so happy to see that crosswalk. But what I didn't notice was a sign that indicated there was a new traffic signal. And I was wondering if administration was going to get some signs out just to indicate that that is new. I almost didn't see it, and there were some pedestrians crossing. So I'm just wondering if we're going to see some kind of new signal sign going up there.
That's a question. And that intersection you're referring to, Councillor Bennett, is just straight down here, 51st?
51st, 48.
That's 50th, and this is 51st.
Oh, yep, this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, so it has been a crosswalk in the past, and I think they just painted it. I think the question is AT going to make it more visible in terms of markings?
Your Worship, through you to Councillor Bennett, I'll check into the, I'm not sure of the specifics of any more work that is planned there, so I'll check into it and get back to council via email, if that's okay.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, there are lights there now.
There's lights?
Just for clarity, Your Worship, I'll refer to it like the place name. Is Councillor Bennett referring to Rexall crossing? They did have installation of overhead pedestrian signals?
Yes.
Okay, so 50th. There you go.
50th.
So just with that clarification, the general manager, I believe I'm not sure if you know more about that one or if you would just like the time to respond.
Okay, so thank you very much for that clarity, and it's 50th Avenue.
50th.
I'm not aware of any new signal signage or whatever which is going up, so I'll check into that. I'm not sure if the standard is you have to put a new up for an overhead pedestrian crossing or not, but I will get the answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Anything else?
No.
Thank you. Councilor Meyer, anything to update council on?
Nothing this week, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Pletchko?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, through to administration. I'm just wondering, I had a few people inquiring regarding the Somerville development and what's going on there. I see there's houses, some landscaping that are being done, and some fences that have come down. So just wondering if there's any update for that at this point in time.
Okay. So this is the Somerville Gates. Somerville Springs has been demolished.
Yeah.
An
I think,
update?
Your Worship, I'll just ask our General Manager of Planning and Infrastructure to provide any update that he's able to.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Pletchko. So both the gate ownership groups have been working on remediating various aspects of the development through the summer, and work will continue into next year before any occupancy is granted. So at this time, they're still working forward on I guess addressing deficiencies.
Thank you. Anything else, Councilor Pletchko?
No, that's everything this evening. Thank you.
Councilor Loy?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. 3 items, but 2 of them are going to be very brief because Somerville was just addressed. Folkestone, Councillor Bennett, I drove in there today purposely to take a look at that building. It is going to be very, very nice. It's just not a rectangular building. It has design to it and stuff like that. So yeah, I applaud you and the work that you've done for that. It's going to be good. We have a roundabout, Your Worship, up on Main Street. It has a 4-way stop at all the entrances. That defeats a roundabout. So if we can look into that to get that removed fairly quickly, or because I've had some people mention that to me myself.
Yes, so Councillor Loy, I was just out there last week with Ahmed, our project manager, and so we did a little filming on that, and that was a question that was asked. The fact is that there are so many changes on the downtown core. They wanted to make sure that we changed as least as possible, so they wanted to keep those stop signs there until people got used to it, and then we were going to move it to a yield sign. So then it becomes a full functional roundabout. Because as many of us know and live in this community, once that tree goes in there, people go left, they go right, they don't know exactly what the direction is. So because there's so many changes in the downtown core, Ahmed said that they decided to keep those 4-way stops in there so people got used to stopping and slowing and looking before they made it a full roundabout. So right now you treat it like a 4-way stop.
Did Your Worship, did you get an approximate time frame?
One of those questions that I asked about was I can't confirm that, because one of the issues that we're having downtown is that people are not stopping at the stop lines. So they're driving into the intersection to stop, which then defeats the purpose of traffic calming in the way that it was designed. So I think that's something with enforcement and everything else. So I can't tell you. It depends how people drive.
Well, yes, if Traffic Safety Act or something like that says that you have to stop by the stop signs, or stop by before the stop line, and those stop lines are considerably back, so I can see where people don't stop there because they don't know the law exactly, but will get to the point where they will stop and creep out. I can semi-buy that. To be quite honest with you, I don't buy the 4-way stop there needing any time, or if it is time, we've already had it up 1 week. I think our drivers can figure that out. We do have one over in Spruce Grove, albeit a 2-laner, and we got 1 lane, and people have asked me why we've got that up there. I think if we're going to keep it up there, it should be a very reasonable time, and that reasonable time is up.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, and definitely We'll leave it to staff to determine when that is, as I'm not the traffic expert, and hopefully they have somebody on staff or they have consulted somebody to direct that.
That's all I'm asking. I'll be watching.
Okay, anything else? You said you had 3 and that's only 2.
No, the four-way stop, Folkestone, and Councillor Palachko mentioned about Somerville, so 3 items only took a short time.
Okay. Councillor Matties?
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a question for administration. A number of weeks ago, we had had a presentation from the library, and one of the questions that came up were with regards to the cost of cleaning services, and with COVID-19 and some of the additional issues with that. And then there was some discussion with regards to maybe the town consolidating such a service for all the town-owned buildings. And I'm wondering when we would get an update from administration on that matter.
Okay. I believe our staff have looked at that before, so can staff provide some commentary on that?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Matties, just refreshing my memory, because we did have some conversation with that during that evening. I think there was also some questions about whether or not we should hire staff or continue with a contract. So we did have some some conversation around, at this point, we deemed contracting still the best opportunity. We do work with the library to ensure that they're getting best value for their contract. Depending on who's in the business at the time and who's able to provide service to a particular call for service, that would dictate the price. So we certainly do look for efficiency to ensure that we're getting good value for the number of sites that we might have for contracted services or janitorial services. So we do a fair bit of that already. And the library certainly did reach out to ourselves, and we certainly did assist them with gaining some prices and some understandings and linking them into the people that we use at our various buildings.
Just, I guess, to follow up then, so there's maybe a variation in the different charges that could be, and that we're working to ensure that we've got the most efficient cost in our community for our buildings.
Your Worship, through Councillor Matties, certainly that's the work that we do throughout the year for sure. Again, depending on when a contract expires and who's available to respond to the call for service, it has a lot of bearing on the prices that we may pay for janitorial from time to time.
Okay. I think one of the questions that may kind of follow up on that one is we do have a few facilities that the town of Stony Plain is responsible for. We pay in one way or the other, either through grant funding to the library or grant funding to FSSS. Is there any savings or a possibility of contracting all those services at once under one overhead umbrella?
Your Worship, through to yourself, I guess, and the rest of council. Certainly, yes, we've had the facility staff definitely have looked at that opportunity, and as contracts expire and the opportunity exists for more contracts to be blended into one, we certainly go through that exercise.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Matties, anything else?
Your Worship, I just wanted to make an additional comment with regards to the Greater Chamber of Commerce, Parkland Chamber of Commerce, and the Ambassador of Action Award from the town of Stony Plain. We didn't get the opportunity like we've had in past years to be able to, present each business in a way with a large group of people, watching the overall celebration. And I just wanted to say I had and I mentioned this at a past meeting, but I did have the opportunity to meet with the finalists for that award. And we had some really great conversations afterwards, and some of the initiatives that these innovative ways that they've developed to serve their customers, to work in this environment, from Ray Agro with innovative fertilizers, for farming, Tirecraft, who again have had new products for the farming community as well. Moonshiners, who renovated and expanded to a live venue, and we chatted with them briefly about having an outdoor patio. And, of course, in challenging economic times or with COVID, et cetera, sometimes you have to, look at the cost of these things. And I'm hoping that as a community, we can look at maybe are there some cost-effective ways or maybe temporary solutions to maybe make that opportunity available to an organization like that. Also, the other finalist was Kids at Play Daycare. And I mean, I cannot believe you have to tour this daycare in terms of the indoor and outdoor addition. They have a gym, amazing for area for school-age children. And basically, I mean, they're helping parents of 100 children get to work. And so that's the type of organizations that we have in this community. And I just wanted to share that. And the other thing I wanted to share, I stepped in for the presentation for one of the finalists for the Award of Creative Excellence, and that was Greg Hanna. And we had a really great conversation again, with regards to the history of Stony Plain. And he happened to remember speaking to my mom as she was standing in front of the printing press mural in Stony, and she described a little bit of our history with that, and that my grandparents had owned the newspaper. But she mentioned that the old printer is from Stony Plain is actually in the Edson newspaper office. And so I'm not sure if it's still there. Like that was back in 2003 when she had, the fellow had bought it from Stony Plain, but something that we may want to consider having back in Stony Plain. And then the next thing that we talked about was about, sharing the history. And we have wonderful tours and murals and, wonderful murals booklet that describes them. But we also talked about maybe having an open mic storytelling session with members of our community, such as Greg Hanna, because we've got to learn, we've got to share that story with more people, because it's just absolutely amazing. And to have an open mic maybe with a number of our members of our community that we're all joining in and participating would be kind of exciting. So anyways, those are the things that we talked about, and I just wanted to share just the great conversations and just the great organizations and people that make up this community.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And thank you for attending those and meeting with the finalists. And again, yes, it has been a very, very weird year with the global pandemic and unable to celebrate and recognize the people in our community that have achieved great things and that needed to be celebrated. So the winner of the Ambassador of Action Award, I think Councilor Mattis has listed the finalists and everything else, was Whimsical Vintage Creations. Again, going through a pandemic, expanding and growing the business model, again, having to change and alter to do that, kind of earned them that award. So congratulations to Whimsical. And then with the Award of Creative Excellence, again, Councilor Mattis has mentioned the finalists. The winner of that was the Stony Plain Pioneer Museum, Stony Plain Parkland Pioneer Museum Model Train Volunteers. That's a mouthful. But yes, if you've not had the chance to visit the Pioneer Museum, definitely do that. They have recreated a model train set in the second floor of the old town hall. And it's kind of a resemblance or showcase of the whole Parkland area. You can see the train going through the different communities and where it stopped in terms of Wildman, Gainfield, Stony Plain. So it's kind of interesting. Not only is just a dedication of love in terms of model trains, but it's also a dedication to the history within the town of Stony Plain. So congratulations to them as well. As well, there we also had a Young Entrepreneurs Award for the Greater Chamber of Parkland, and our very own Murad Gartner was a recipient of that. And if you guys know Murad has been a local kid, went to school here, graduated from Memorial Compass High School. He's currently in university, but he also owns and runs Two Cool Cookies, a little ice cream stand in town. So he does a great job of that. If you ever have the chance, two little cookie sandwiches. The cookies are baked in that little concession itself, so it's delicious. And if you ever want to buy me something, I like the tiger ice cream. So if you guys, just a hint, if you guys do like that, if you guys are around, I do like the tigers. Okay. With that, thank you very much. Just want to update because, as we mentioned, it has been a very kind of strange year. This year, there will be no Remembrance Day service as we know it. There will be a very, very small service that will be held at the Legion, and I'm honored to lay the wreath on behalf of the town of Stony Plain. As well, there's also a national campaign going around at 11 o'clock on November 11th. If we can all stand on our front porches and take 2 minutes of silence as we honor those that have sacrificed their lives and their families so that we can have the rights and the freedoms that we do in our country. Okay, that ends the council information discussion. And before we adjourn it, I believe I understand that the representative of the Salvation Army are here.
I believe so, Your Worship.
Okay. Right, good evening, and thank you for taking the time to come to council and provide some information and a presentation for us regarding the Salvation Christmas Kettle campaign in Stony Plain, Spruce Grove, Morinville, and St. Albert, I believe. And thank you for wearing your mask coming in. And again, you're allowed to have it off when you're seated, and when you leave, you have to put the mask back on. Thank you very much. And the mics don't pick up very much, so if you can just pull in towards you and speak directly into the mics. They have been sanitized, so we're okay.
Thank you. Do you want, okay. All right, thank you very much for allowing us to be here. This is my 3rd year with the campaign and looking after Stony Plain area. So I just want to say first and foremost, I'm really impressed with the residents that come to volunteer, because there's a lot of great people, and I've met a lot of great people over the last 3 years. And I've lived here about 8 years on and off, and I'm happy to be here, so thank you.
And I've been in the Spruce Grove, Stony Plain area for 30 years, and this is my 2nd year with the Salvation Army, so I was really impressed with everyone. The one difference this year compared to last year is because of COVID, we've lost 10% of our senior volunteers. They just declined because of COVID, so we are in desperate need for more volunteers. So, yes, I don't know if you all saw this again last year, but the Salvation Army Kettle campaign has been on since 1891. And actually, it started in St. John's, Newfoundland. And in 1906, so it's been over 100 years. And the thing is, people don't realize that what they do. And with the Salvation Army, the money stays local. It all stays local. Any money we receive here stays in Spruce Grove, Stony Plains, in Albert. And it's dispersed through FCSS, but it does everything from helping people with rents, prescriptions, clothes. They have sort of a daycare. They help feed people. They help with housing. They help with jobs. So they go above and beyond, and they don't say no to anyone. So yes, here it says prescription, groceries, transportation, addiction treatment, budget counseling, after-school programs, as well as outreach for people living on the streets. And so they're also helping our group that we have that helps the unsheltered. And it's amazing because we have so many wonderful volunteers. We just don't have enough of them this year. So last year we were fortunate enough to do our whole campaign without a single vacant spot, where this year we may have a few vacant spots. So we're hoping to get more people in there. So what's a kettle volunteer? It's someone who stands beside the kettle, and this year it's going to be totally different. We will not have candy canes. We will not have bells. We will not have literature. So there'll be somebody standing by the kettle 6 feet apart, and there'll be the kettle, and there'll be a debit machine. So we're hoping to have a tap debit machine, so people can pay by tap, or else they can just put it in, and everything's going to be sanitized. And they don't start until the 12th of November, after Remembrance Day, and it goes till the 24th of December. So 93% of the monies collected are invested back into the donating communities, with only 7% going to administration. And actually, that's the least amount of administration fees of any of the charities. A lot of them you see, and CEOs get this huge handout where they're so minimal for the Salvation Army. It all goes back into the communities. Last year, our kettle campaign raised over $390,000. Our goal was 400. We came very, very close. We had over 300 volunteers, and people often apologize that they're giving loonies and toonies. Over $60,000 was collected in loonies and toonies and coins. And people have to understand it all adds up. So our goal this year is to raise $400,000. And this is a year where everyone is desperate for funds. So like I said, it goes back into the community. And our volunteers indicate that the opportunities are some of the most rewarding experiences their families enjoy. So how can you help? Visit our kettle volunteers throughout the coming seasons. Consider donating and investing back with the most vulnerable people and families in the community. And consider volunteering. It's only 2 hours, or unless you take multiple shifts, we always are grateful for that. And or consider adopting a kettle. So have a group and say one day, possibly Saturday, just have a team of people. It's 6 shifts during a day, and it goes from 10 in the morning to 8 at night, 2-hour shifts. So if you can get a team together, we always love that because it is really hard to fill some shifts. And as I say, people can adopt the kettle for more than one day if they choose. Some of the banks do that. And so this is Huina Burke, and I'm Karina Baudouin, and we are really grateful that you're allowing us to speak on this. And if you have any questions, just ask.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation, and as always, great to have representatives from the Salvation Army in our chambers. And absolutely right from the presentation, you guys do a considerable amount in our communities to support the people that are kind of falling through the cracks, and definitely appreciate that. Members of council, any questions for clarity and understanding? Councillor Loy, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Worship, and thank you, ladies, and all the best of luck for this coming season. I understand the candy canes, but clarity, please. Bad word. Read the bells.
We were told because the bells go into the bags and one person would touch it first and then the next person would touch it. And so it's a sanitization, keeping everything clean and proper. So they didn't want to risk it because germs. Everybody's concerned with COVID, so they said no. Well, they would pass on the bells. I actually had one volunteer said, I have my own bell. Can I bring my own bell? So then it's not transferring germs.
Yeah, because I asked the same question, and, pretty much we're getting rid of all the high-touch items. And so that's what's new this year. And I did have another comment, but it's up to, I don't know the time.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say, because I'm looking over here, and in 2018, she worked the kettle at Friesen's. So, so I appreciate for you coming out to do that. And I remember the first donation was a $100 bill.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was the
So
owner of
it's
Friesen.
amazing how giving these communities are. It's amazing.
And Spruce Grove and Stony Plain actually out-donated St. Albert last year.
Yeah.
So we were very grateful for that.
That was good to hear. Did you have a hand up?
Yeah, I'm just going to give her my business card. So
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from members of council? Okay. Seeing none. Thank you very much, and I just appreciate the presentation, and as you mentioned, that everything adds up, so loonies and toonies, all that, because I believe in that incremental steps forward, right? And so every little bit helps, and at the end of the day, with all those little bits of change, we made a huge step forward for our community, so definitely thank you very much.
Just
Yes,
one other
thank you.
comment. I had one of my volunteers say, and this lady is in her 80s, and she said she would always volunteer because when she was a child and their family came upon hard times, it was through the Salvation Army that they were able to survive. And I've had dozens of people come up when they donate, and they'll tell us stories. I had the most heartwarming story last year where a gentleman came and he put in $20, $40, whatever it was. And he said that when he was in the Army, so, you know, he was an older gentleman, he said he had come off the ship and gone AWOL to see his girlfriend. But then he had to get back to his ship, and he couldn't afford to do that. And so the Salvation Army gave him money so he could get back to his group, so he could get back to the Navy. But I thought that was a very endearing story.
Yes. Great.
And I was just going to add another quick story because I was dealing with Stony Plain. So I was working the co-op kettle at the Home Improvement Center, and I had one gentleman come up and put a fair-size donation in there, and he told me the story of how he immigrated to Stony Plain, his whole family in the 50s, and his father broke his back. And he said it was Salvation Army that helped his family every week with groceries or whatever the needs were. And I thought, it's amazing, it's story after story of heartwarming, you know? And these people don't forget when someone's helped them.
Yes. Yes.
So thank you.
Great stories to share, and then you're absolutely right. I'm very proud of the community that we live in Stony Plain. As you mentioned, we do rise to the occasion, especially when there's a need, and there is a need this year, and I believe that our residents will rise to that occasion as well. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
All right, members of council, that does end our meeting, so we're moving to adjournment. Thank you very much. Members of administration, thank you much for the work that you've done for us and providing the agenda package together. With that, we are adjourned.